Hey everybody, welcome to Killing Time. I'm IA.
I'm Juice Pop.
Just Bob. Just Bob, the Florida Gator, and all kinds of things. Although the Florida Gator these days, not doing so good.
We don't want to talk about Florida Gators. Bad lately.
Bad nickname to have these days. But anyway, let's not talk about killing babies today, shall we?
Let's talk about Killing Time.
That's what this show is called. And also, we look for entertainment that does not suck. And today, we're going to focus on something called Preacher, which talked a little bit about it a couple episodes of our show ago. And this time I've watched, I think there's been 4 episodes. I've watched 3. And I think we're going to have a spoiler-filled discussion of Preacher. So if you're watching this and you're like, actually, we'll do the first thing where we talk about something without spoiling it. Because there's a value to that, I think, if you're watching this. And if you don't think it's a value, then you're probably not even watching right now. So I don't even know what to talk about. So
exactly. So before we get into the spoilers, let me ask you, this has nothing to do with spoilers. What do you think of casting? Let's look at the characters. What do you think of the casting?
Okay, I think that Cassidy is terrific.
Perfect, in my opinion.
It sounds like Cassidy. Tulip sounds just the way I thought Tulip would sound in my head, which is weird.
Mm-hmm.
Jesse, I think, is a little off right now.
I agree. I don't know if it's because the character in the comic book, it's all done in flashbacks. The character's so far further along his travels when we meet him that we don't see, the early on, Lord is everything kind of Jesse, except in flashbacks.
Yeah.
So maybe that's why I'm giving it the benefit of the doubt for now.
Yeah. So I think I don't think he's weak, but like he doesn't match the idea I had in my head. But if you're watching it just off the bat, I don't think it's a bad thing at all. I think Arseface is okay. I'll talk about that later in spoilers. Otherwise, I mean, it seems like it almost feels like it kind of feels Walking Dead-ish at times.
Well, yeah. I mean, being on AMC and similar people involved with it, that makes sense.
What do you think about the casting?
I think the casting is good. Like I said, I'm having this trouble with Dominic Cooper being maybe a little too metrosexual type guy, and I always thought Jesse was more of a, rough kind of Southern guy. But that's because of my preconceived notions from reading the comic book.
Right. But the other thing is that this show is updated. It's not a direct take of the comic book, and the fact that the comic book takes place in like the 90s or late 90s or early 2000s. And in this show, there's like cell phones, there's smartphones.
Right.
And there's a whole different world because if something happens, everyone can find out right away versus back when we were reading the story, this was not an option. I like the fact that they updated it. So maybe that's part of the deal that I have to kind of accept is that this is what they would be like if you made them right now.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, I can see that.
Okay. So I think as a show, I think if you don't know the books, you don't know what's going on at all. No,
completely confused. The only thing the only reason I know who characters are and what's happening is because of reading the books.
I feel like they're going to tie it all together and there's going to be some great revelations as to what's happening. But I think it's asking a lot of the audience, at least the first 3 episodes, to go, trust us.
Yeah.
These are 40-minute episodes. So if you're going to get that trust, I think that maybe you pay off. Maybe the 4th episode, which I haven't watched, maybe that actually does a little bit of that payoff. So people are like, oh, okay, finally I get what we're watching, what's going on. Because it feels very prologue-ish as well. It doesn't feel like the story's kicked in until like the 3rd episode.
Yeah, they're asking a lot.
Anyway, I think the show is going to be great in the long run. Not sure how it's going to be. What do you think?
I think you're right. I'm going to give it the benefit of the doubt. So far, it's got enough to keep me interested, and I know where the story's generally going to go, but it's different enough that I don't know exactly what's going to happen because of some of the things they've changed. So I'm excited to see where they go with it.
All right, let's go into the spoiler section, and this time I'm going to do this right now. I'll wave to the camera to say, "Hey, Ayaz, right now you're going to write spoiler time." So say spoilering time now, so people are not like, "Oh no, what's going on?" So spoilers. Let's talk about this. We're going to talk about the stories. We're going to talk about the books, and we're going to talk about the show the way it is. I got to be careful too because I don't want to spoil this for Liz, who's downstairs too. Okay. Jackie Earle Haley as clearly the Sausage Man.
Yes.
I don't want to see what happens.
Oh, it's going to be scary, and it has to be, because that's just going to be freaky. And they're already leading up to it with him enjoying listening to the sounds of the animals and things like that.
He's listening to the sounds of a slaughterhouse. Okay,
yes.
So you're hearing the cows and then that down, that's what you're hearing constantly. And he's listening to it on an intercom.
Yes.
And he turns it up.
It's going to be disturbing. And he's also great casting. We didn't talk about that, but once I saw him in that role, I'm like, that's perfect.
Yeah. I don't want to see the scene with him. I think he's going to nail it. No pun intended. And
Yes.
it's going to be amazing. If you don't know what I'm talking about, I'm not going to explain this. This is
No.
like, I know I said I'll spoil stuff, but no. No. Okay. Jesse Custer. He finally is using the word of God. And in one of the first scenes where he's really messing around with Cass, that was, I think, hilarious.
When he was having him hop on one foot and do all these
And
things.
he says, sing me some Johnny Cash. So he sings literally those words, some Johnny Cash or something like that, because he doesn't know.
Any Johnny Cash.
Which I thought was so literal, but also brilliant. I thought it was very funny. I think Cass's relationship with Jesse is very similar to the books, the way that Cassidy immediately is just like, this is my best mate. It's like, you met him for like a minute and you guys were in jail. That's about it.
Yeah.
I think Jesse's Shady Past is looking really good. I think Tulip is just as badass as she is in the books.
I thought she's pretty much exactly what I expected. She's a good character in the show.
Yeah. Let me think.
The sheriff, completely different temperament.
Yeah, I didn't like that.
I don't like it. I kind of like the sheriff in the books where he's a complete hard-ass, badass military man because it makes more sense for the character.
Yeah, in the stories, the original stories, I believe he kind of looks like Arlie Emery. He's got this kind of like drill sergeant kind of thing, and he's completely despondent because his son shot himself in the face.
Yeah.
So he's not a big fan of his son. Versus this one is much more tolerant. Again, maybe that's an updating concept that maybe if you have a child now that did something like that, maybe you would have a different idea. I really don't like the subtitles for R-Space. I hate it.
But it's kind of like in the comic book where they had the subtitles.
No, they didn't. That's the thing. Remember that in the comic books, all they had was... That's what it actually said in the word balloons.
Yeah, and then it had a thing down below that said, didn't it?
No, it didn't. I'm pretty sure it didn't because I could have sworn I spent a lot of time in the dorm room trying to read this by going, oh, I'm going outside. I got it. Because... Or did I cover them up on purpose? I wouldn't be that crazy.
I don't know. I don't remember. I seem to remember they had the translations, but maybe you're right. Maybe they didn't.
Well, if they did have the subtitles, I should look at the book. I think I have a copy of the book over there. I should go check it out. But I'm going to double check that later. Saint of Killers.
The one part he was in was pretty awesome.
They showed him,
Yes.
and I'm just like, yes, this is going to be awesome. Liz is watching this as a first timer, didn't read the books, does not know why this is badass.
Right. She doesn't know what's going on.
There is so many scenes where this seems to be the case of like, this is going to get really cool. But again, the first watching with people, like just watching it myself, if it's on its own, it's kind of boring.
Yeah.
The first two episodes are pretty dull. I mean, I think the third episode really picks up. Although the first episode with Cass's introduction coming out of an airplane.
That was pretty awesome.
That was excellent. Tulip Shootout, I think that was third episode. Or it might have been second episode. But Jesse finally showing some guts.
Yeah.
I like that. But like you were saying, there's something that's not quite gruff enough about Custer.
Yeah.
I can't put my finger on it right now. But there's something just not right. Maybe it seems like his voice is too high.
Yeah, like I said, he's a little too metrosexual, the character. He's just doesn't have that edge to him. I don't know.
Also,
but maybe that's the plot. Maybe he has to become that person through a bunch of bad stuff happening.
That's probable, because like they did show a flashback quickly of Jesse in the past, what he was like with longer hair, and he's kind of meaner. And I'm thinking, we'll see that because the storyline...
He goes back to that.
Yeah, the storyline, the whole book, it's just what Custer against God.
Pretty much, searching for God who took off. But in the book, you got to remember when he got the word of God, it also blew up his church and all his parishioners.
That's what I thought happened too. I'm like, didn't this happen? And also, I don't think R-Space was in the congregation. And what is this collapsing of things?
Yeah.
I mean, I get the idea. I don't remember Jesse being such a, like, I guess not happy preacher, but a happy preacher. In the first ones, he's kind of like, I'm begrudgingly a preacher, but I want to do better by my flock. Now, I could be remembering wrong. Or I could be not accepting it, but I was thinking this guy was going to be just begrudging and be like, okay, fine, I'm doing this because they used to lock me in a coffin.
Well, kind of like he was in the first episode before he found his meaning or whatever, you know?
Although
That's what I expected him to be more like.
I definitely liked seeing in the third one, there's this little there's a pipe coming out of the ground, and they actually vented it. And I'm like, I know what that is. This is gonna be great.
Yes.
I really think they're asking way too much of the audience.
I think they're pandering too much to the people who've read the book and not enough to people who don't know anything about the story.
Yeah, they're not opening it up. That's the thing.
Yeah.
So if they're going to continue this, they really got to pick it up, and hopefully they'll make a story that people want to watch on TV and not just go, I'm just going to pick up the book, because the book's good. The show looks really good though. That's the other thing. Like, there's a okay. So those two guys. Now I don't want to give away stuff. Now they said they're from heaven, so I'm going to lean on you to explain who they are. Because once I realized who they were, I started laughing hysterically. But since there are people within somebody can hear me right now. Can you explain who they are?
Who they are? The two angel guys that were sent down to pretty much get back Genesis. Well, pretty much extrapolate Genesis from Jesse by any means necessary.
So
Yeah,
that's
and
what they are. These
Yeah.
guys, and it's hilarious that they keep coming back in the first couple episodes, and they're weird as hell. And
I actually
Cassidy-
think that they're done very well because they're kind of weird in the books too.
Oh yeah, they're awkward because they're not.
Yeah.
They don't want to be there. They don't like where they are. It's disgusting. They're
Right.
on Earth. Why would you want to be on Earth? I mean, you know where your home is. This is not as fun.
Yeah.
I also did like Jesse's description of Genesis, explaining like there's all this fire and passion and all this other stuff inside
Yeah.
of him at once. I'm like, oh yeah, because that is a huge foreshadowing as to what created Genesis,
Correct.
which I'm waiting on. I don't know how they're going to show this and explain
Well,
that.
they're leaving a lot of the heaven and God stuff out of there right now. We know it's the word of God, but we don't know what it is exactly.
Yeah, and we don't know why these guys are trying to get it back. We don't know lots of this stuff.
Right.
I really did enjoy the first episode where multiple people were hit by the word of God and they were exploding.
Yes, but him it took.
Right. I like that. It's like, okay, we're picking this guy. He's special. I thought that was a nice addition. I think it slowed down the story a lot, but I thought that was kind of
Yeah.
neat. Like, people exploding, and that's all over YouTube. And you're like, okay, well, that's interesting. Jesse Custer drinking himself stupid while Cassidy's fighting the two guys from heaven. Hilarious.
Good scene. Yeah.
Because there's a lot of violence in this show, and a lot of it's funny. And
Yes.
I think that's very good. So I'm enjoying
That's
that.
important. I think that's an important part of the book was the violence and just out of nowhere, like in the first episode where the guy takes his word of God literally and rips out his own heart.
Open your heart.
Yes.
I quite like that. I thought that was, you saw it coming, and you knew it was going to happen, but it was good. It was necessary.
Yeah.
It was good actor too. All right.
Yeah.
So let's see. Any other major points we want to hit?
No, I hit the big ones.
All right.
I mean, it's a good show. I think if anybody who's watching it is confused and is losing interest, stick with it. It's if they start explaining things, you're gonna enjoy it.
I think potentially this show should have been a Netflix show, and then like you have the 12 episodes together, and you can get
Yes.
through it, because the weekly, I think parsing this out weekly is hurting it a bit, and I think this is much more forgivable if you can jump to the episode like 8 and go, oh, okay, I see where
I
this
agree.
is going. So I think that's actually hurting. This is strange. This is just came to me right now. This idea that you can't binge watch it, and maybe you don't watch it right now. You hold on,
Yeah.
wait for like 5 or 6 to be out, and then start watching it.
Yeah, maybe that's what you tell people. You need to wait until there's a bunch of episodes in the can and then binge watch it so you really can, enjoy it more.
That's gonna be my official ruling on this show. Preacher is to be binge watched. Wait for it to come out. Unless you read the books. If you read the books, watch it if you want to, because I think it's fun. It's
Yeah.
fun to see these guys come to life, and it's shot really well too. We'll say that.
Yeah.
All right, at this point, we're going to thank everybody at Patreon, people at patreon.com/IAS who are donating to this show, who are making sure that I do a new dinosaur podcast, which is going to happen by the end of this month or next month. Monthly, it'll be back. What else do we want to say? KillingTime.tv, this stuff's available. Also at youtube.com/Finite Comedy, where you can watch this stuff forever, all the time. Like, subscribe, all that nonsense. And what else?
Thanks for watching.
Yeah. And see you.